What's up, guys? My name is SuicidalGrind, and I was originally gonna do some stuff on the other channel, on YouTube. I was gonna screen share YouTube, but I figured it's easier to just screen share my Spotify page and do the songs that are on here because it's gonna be a long video. So we're gonna be talking about basically every story that I can provide behind my first behind everything I made, really, if I have one that's significant enough, because some I'll only really provide an overview of the album, what it was like making at the time, or what I had in mind, for example. So basically we're just gonna get right into it. So we start with obviously the first here, Brutalized Epicness and Satan's Hot Rod, which I released as their own thing, and I don't know why I didn't release it as two songs in one EP. I honestly have no clue, but it's two songs actually. But I released them because these were the first two songs I properly wrote, if you know what I mean. Like, I sat down, came up with some riffs, and then had drums in the background and bass. I had a full assembly of instruments and sometimes vocals. I believe Satan's Hot Rod is an instrumental. Yes, it is. Why do I believe? I know it is an instrumental. So it was basically just because, like, Brutalized Epicness basically is just a song where I'm just messing about, trying to write something. You can kind of tell that it's my first song, but I also have like a certain attachment to it because the solo at the end, out of everything, it was very flashy because all I really did was be like, hey, here's everything I can do on guitar right now in one song on the solo. That's basically what it was, because I have like every technique I could do, like tapping and sweep picking and shredding and different dive bomb stuff. I basically put it all there, but for some reason this solo was actually nicely made, in my opinion. I will see. I'm not gonna play any examples because I realize that that's gonna take a longer time. But basically, the solo in this one, I'm probably still most proud of out of any song I've ever made. Mainly because the whammy bar into the shredding, like having the whammy bar, and then having just a bunch of dive bombs and shit, and then going into the shredding after that. It actually had some progression to the guitar soloing, and while Satan's Hot Rod doesn't really have the same kind of progression, it still had a sense of like a sense of composition to it, in my opinion, where I'm still really happy with the way it came out. That one's honestly I've still yet to make a blues song that's heavier, if you know what I mean. Because I take pride in sometimes making a genre I call heavy blues, because it doesn't really fall into just blues rock. It's more in metal than blues rock, but it's not fully in metal. So I kind of call it heavy blues, which is kind of the style I like to do, which is basically just traditional blues rock riffing, but with a thicker tone and more distortion and stuff like that. This I did use a Stevie Ray Vaughan tone for. There's no real story about any of these songs, like anything special about them, like behind the scenes. I guess the only thing is that basically in Brutalized Epicness, the entire song, as far as the bass goes, I was literally just hitting the E string. Like that one is literally the meme that bass players only hit the E string. That was literally what I did in that song. I was just hitting the E string for the entire goddamn song, and that was the bass line. But you know, there's a lot of people that do that, believe it or not. I mean, I guess there was some notes I played different, like when you go to the end riff where it goes do 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 do. I guess I kind of follow that riff, whatever, however that went. But I believe in order we have to go all the way up here next to this one, because this is just a remaster-ish upload of my first album, my first full-length album. The first thing was just an EP. I didn't upload all the songs to Spotify. That's that. And here is where I say I started actually writing songs. I started actually writing songs as far as the riffs go, because these have more of a... all of the songs still have at least some... all the songs that I tried had some form of progression to. The exception being basically the first song and the fourth, and I'll talk about that. Basically, the Decapitated Epicness is obviously me making like a part 2 to Brutalized Epicness. So it has a similar vibe, and it's basically the same song but with different guitar solos and no vocals. And I believe it's an E flat, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember quite. It's slightly different in the riffing and stuff, and it's like maybe an E flat. I don't know. It's like a very similar song though. It's basically the same concept, and the drums are still the same, except on this remaster I don't use the Cult drums as they are called. I use a much better MT Power Kit, I believe. I believe that was one of the songs I found the files for. And here comes my Swedish songs. My first Swedish songs I publicized, I believe. Yeah, actually. My first Swedish songs I made with in terms of actual songwriting was Det kommer inte regna, which is basically just the Swedish way of saying it's not gonna rain. It's a very dumb song, because I believe all the lyrics is basically me just screaming about how it's not gonna rain and the rain is not welcome here. I'm basically just doing a rain diss track here, but it's metal. It's not really metal. It's more like hardcore punk-ish. This one was more punk rock than hardcore. But the other one, the Kommer inte Oscar, which is basically just the same thing, but this time it's a thunder storm we're talking about. That one's a little more hardcore punk, because I go a little more like that, instead of just screaming about the rain or whatever. And both of those songs, my then IRL friend and I basically did a song together. So those are collaborative songs, and there's not really much of a story other than that me and my friend were just hanging out, and we felt like doing songs on 2 separate occasions. So that's how those came about. And then we get to the 4th song, Eat My Fucking Flesh. I'm pretty sure the length of this song explains pretty much itself. It was me recently getting into Napalm Death. I listened to their album, but of course I wanted to make like a meme song, because this was when I didn't really take myself too seriously, except for the last 2 songs, kind of. But the very last song I took myself seriously. But that was we'll get to that. And basically, Eat My Fucking Flesh is just the same concept as You Suffer, but it's, I believe, a different chord I play. It's basically a ripoff, if you want to even call it that, because it's basically the same concept. Only like 1 chord or 2, and then I say "Eat my fucking flesh," and then that's the thing, because it's just a grindcore ripoff, really. But then we get, oh man, I think this is the funny part, because here we actually get Power Metal is Hard to Make, which is a funny title, because it's just Power Metal is Hard to Make. I made this the title because I tried making a full power metal song where everything was like guitar shredding, because I couldn't sing. I can kind of do some clean singing, but I cannot do like Dragon Force, fucking yeah, those kind of things, even if I wanted to, which I wouldn't really want to go into all the practice just to get falsetto to sound good enough to do that. And, I don't really want to do that. So I didn't, and well, it came out horrible. It's the worst song I've ever made. In fact, this is actually the remake of the first one, because this was the remake. So this is a remaster of a remake. Because I already made Power Metal is Hard to Make on the first album, which is probably why I didn't include that on Spotify when I uploaded Brutalized Epicness. I mean on my EP, because that's not really an album. It doesn't have that many songs. And then we move into the two songs, which I guess at the time they were 50-50. Let's just say they were 50-50. 50% of it was dead serious. 50% of it was just me fucking around. It's my two black metal songs. Flames in the Fire and The Forest Fire. I'll pretty much group these together because the story is about the same. I recently got into black metal fully, and that's basically it. I just got into black metal fully. As in, like, I actually listened to Mayhem and started, like, listening to it. I didn't just put it on as like, oh, I know Freezing Moon, I like black metal, I listen to Freezing Moon. It's just like, you can't just listen to one song. I started listening to the full album, and I actually found out that Pagan Fears is 100 times better than Freezing Moon. Pagan Fears is probably the best progression ever, and I will say Varg was a talented bassist. Like, undoubtedly, Varg is a really talented bassist. He knows how to write a good bass line. Or knew, because he doesn't really do it anymore. So, the bass line that I found out, actually, recently, that Hellhammer basically said, oh, yeah, we're gonna re-record the bass lines, but they actually never did. They actually lied about that. So, it is actually Varg Vikernes' bass on that album. I read that recently. And it's kind of weird because Hellhammer, out of all people, which I believe, I thought he would be more, like, responsible. He didn't want to re-record the lines for the bass, even though they killed their guitarist, who was in the band with Hellhammer. So I don't know, but they probably hated the guitarist anyways, because I believe they all hated him. It turns out afterwards that they all hated Euronymous anyways. So that's that. But yeah, I basically liked Mayhem now, and I wanted to make black metal. So that's what happened. I made two long songs. Flames in the Fire has a little bit of a story. This is actually the only song I recorded with a real amp. This is 100% real amp recording on the guitar tones itself and the solos and stuff like that. So, Flames in the Fire, I basically took a Behringer amp and the Behringer V-amp multi-effects pedal, and then shoved the microphone inside, because in the back of the amp there's like a cavity it's just open, and so I put my mic directly under my speaker, and then just recorded like that. And I mean, honestly, let's just play it, because I feel like this doesn't even sound that bad for being that. I think the actual guitar tone doesn't sound that bad for being that. It could be worse. I actually wish it was worse than that. I've actually heard black metal that sounded worse in terms of guitar tone, and I actually wish it did sound worse, because it would have been funnier. Oh yeah, I guess The Forest Fire has like one of the longest stretches I've ever done in writing history, so I guess that's a little bit, but that's not too much important. They're basically the same song, but two different ones, except this one is in E flat, and I know that for a fact. Then we get to the second last song, which I guess, I Love Lollies. I guess that song out of all of them has like the most interesting backstory, because I basically, did I even plan to make the lyrics that until like I started recording? Because I'm pretty sure I didn't have any idea for because I'm pretty sure I was just like so disappointed with the other power metal song that I want to make a proper power metal song. So this is my first proper power metal song, in my opinion. I actually like this one because the guitar, like, melodies, for some reason that's catchy to me, and it just stuck with me, and I've listened to it for years now, so it's stuck with me since the day I recorded, I believe, 2019. So yeah, I like that one. I like that song. But the story behind this one's the most interesting, I guess, out of all these songs except for the last. But this is about as interesting as it gets for the songs that aren't the last song in the album. I basically just recorded everything. I'm not sure about the guitar solos and everything when I recorded those. If I recorded those during the same time as the vocals. I believe everything was done up until the solos. So like drums, bass, vocals. No, drums, bass, guitars, and the solos. All that was done. And I believe just for some reason, because I talk to my mom a lot. I have a good sense of keeping in touch with her. We sometimes just call each other and talk on the phone for no reason, like for hours. We've literally talked for like 6 hours before on the phone. It's kind of crazy. And it's not like it doesn't happen often either. Like we will talk for 2 hours like once every week or something on the phone just for no reason, just because that's kind of how we are. So I just was on the phone with my mom, and I was just like, yeah, I'm just sitting here making a song. I'm about to record the vocals, and I believe somewhere in the song, you can vaguely hear a sound in the background. It is not that quiet in the mix because it's like a distinct sound. Because I had my phone on speaker. And I had it turned up pretty loud, so I heard my mom while recording as well. And she heard me, of course. And that was like the biggest like part about it, because that my mom was on a phone call with me when I recorded it. And I think that's most interesting as it gets for my not so serious songs, because I believe as I called my mom, I basically was just like, I'm just gonna take some bullshit anime topic like lollies, because it's so easy for me to go off of and improvise with that, because everything on this first album lyric wise is improvised. So I just knew I could improvise very easily with that. So I was kind of lazy with the topic of the song, but it made for a funny little thing there, and it was just that basically. And well, that leads us to the last song. And the last song, which is literally originally the title of the album, The Angel of Death, which is the original title of the album. This is called The Angel of Eternal Death. And it's actually just called that because this one's never going away from Spotify. The older version went away because I wasn't happy with the drums. So it changed the drums to the new VST that I use now, because it sounds better. Except for a few songs that I believe I couldn't change it to, which is like 2, I believe. But yeah, this last song is the only song on this album that's like actually like proper serious to 100%. Like this one's 200% serious, even though the vocals, like every lyric is improvised. I can still remember the lyrics to this day, and when I listen to it, it doesn't necessarily feel 100% improvised in the sense that it actually is. Which is, I guess, a good sign, because this is honestly still one of my... I don't think I can beat this. This is probably my best song out of all of them, because it has my most passionate deliverance behind everything. And I guess, should I even explain the story? I believe I even say it in the first second of the song. This is a song about losing a loved one, and then the riff comes in. Yeah, it's self-explanatory. It wasn't in terms of a death. it was more in terms of their parents were actually, I say that in the song. I say everything in the song, and you can hear it pretty clearly that I say that her dad is an asshole, so blah 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 blah. And basically, this is just a song that I made about a relationship that I had that had been ruined by the person's dad, because they basically took everything. The only reason I know this is because their dad actually messaged me through their account that they were taking away their phone and sending them to like a white room type thing, like an insane asylum or some shit like that. And I've never heard from them since then, so it's actually like the saddest thing ever. But I have to laugh about it because I can't just get stuck on it. This is like 2019. It's gonna be 4 years now. Like end of this year, it's gonna be 4 years ago. So there's no use getting stuck up on that. It's a shitty thing that happened, but it's far back, so I've gotten over that, obviously. But because of this, the passion behind the writing, the actual progression in the song, and the intro solo and the solo in the middle, and everything about this song, just I can feel that when I wrote this song, I cared about the way it sounded, and that's what makes it probably still my best song in terms of like overall songwriting, because I actually wrote it riff wise and solo wise and melody wise. And I like that the intro solo is two guitars doing two different things. I wouldn't do it any different way now, because I wouldn't do it now because it's so far back. So that's one of my proudest songs, yeah. And I believe this one we don't even need to go into because it's pretty much self-explanatory. I basically just made this for this guy's birthday, and it's basically just he wanted me to make a death metal diss track for him on his birthday. So I did that. And it's there. This is just the remaster where I put the new drums. And I believe we go to the Dark Tribute now, which I would argue is one of my better albums in terms of having fun. This, I feel this was actually my most fun album to make, because I had so much fun making this, because there's no song in this except for A Tribute to Darkness. A Tribute to Darkness is the only song that's serious on this, but that's just because for some reason I came up with a riff that sounded cool to me, and that's how that happens. Sometimes I come up with a riff that is cool to me, and then I guess Blood Lost Death as well, the Imperial Circus Dead Decadence tribute, is serious as well. But those are two songs that are basically just like, I came up with like an idea, and I really liked the idea, so I wanted to put effort into it. And that just happens sometimes even when I try to not be serious in my songs. So, I mean, what can you do? I just let fate decide what happens with my songs. Especially in terms of genre, style, and lyrics. If my mind comes up with a song that's like 240 BPM melodic death metal about a duck that's eating bread, I'm gonna do that, you know? It's basically just I commit to my heart's ideas, which sometimes gets weird, sometimes gets really serious and touchy. So we're basically just gonna touch on some of these songs, and I believe some we're actually gonna skip because I will actually explain why. But we're starting, of course, with Tribute to Hatsune Miku. I believe this is my loudest song vocally, because I just scream in this one. I'm just like, I love Hatsune Miku, let's go! I'm not gonna scream right now, of course, but that song, I'm pretty sure I'm just screaming. I'm like scream singing, because I'm still singing like a melody, but it's just screaming, basically. So it's basically like punk music, but you're screaming. And still trying to... It's like between the line of screaming and singing. It's a weird... It sounds like a drunk person making a song, I guess. That's the best explanation of it. Which, I mean, isn't actually true, because I was the most sober on this album, because I had yet the ability to buy any alcohol, because you have to be 20, and I was 19 on this album, so that's how that is. And then I guess I just made it. I think it actually, this whole project idea just came into mind because I was like, I want to make a tribute to Hatsune Miku, but I want to make a funny song. And that's how it came about, because I was literally just walking outside, and it just came to me like that, and then I did it. And then I made a whole album just doing tributes to stupid shit. Like the next one, Tribute to Yui, my like slam metal song-ish. It's basically just default slam metal riffing. I believe it might have a solo. I don't remember. I don't listen to this album that much, actually. But it's a special song. It has its little quirks and stuff about it. And yeah, there's nothing really special about that one. Because there's other songs on this album that are actually twice as special to me. Like the next one, LSS Rock. Or LSS Rock. This is actually a Swedish song, so it's, you actually have to say LSS Rock to call it correctly. And why? Because this is a Swedish song. I just said that. Basically, I was basically playing Osu at my friend's place, and over the course of a few days, when I had like played at his place for a few days, over a couple weeks, like I would hang out with him sometimes, and I played Osu at his computer. There was like one song I played where it was like a silly melody, and I believe we just started making up dumbass lyrics like to it ourselves. But then it devolved into me actually making up a song on the spot. And I actually wrote down the lyrics to this and recorded it with him as a guest vocalist. And yeah, so we did that together. We did a funny song that basically is another song, but with my lyrics on it. So it's a parody song, I believe. But it's really that was like good times for me, right? But that is about that. That's about it for that one. Tribute to Kazumi Toyama, however, is a little more special. This is like the most important song on the album, I would say, to me. Because this one has, again, the best solo on the album. Not the hardest. The hardest solo is Bloodlust Death, which is one of the songs we're pretty much going to skip over because there's not much to say. It's just a death metal song. Actually, I'll take that right now. Bloodlust Death. It's basically just death metal, but it's 290 BPM. There's nothing more special to it. I was inspired. But Tribute to Kazumi Toyama was a spawn of me watching an anime called Bang Dream. I adore it. I love that anime. It's one of my favorites. In fact, it's one of the best animes I've ever watched. Because it actually simulates the experience of being in a band pretty alright. There's obviously the slight... I don't know if that would happen, It might, but it's not a super common way of starting a band. Let's say that. You don't usually just stalk people and then force them into a band. You actually typically ask people if they want to be in a band. You just not just force them. But yeah, that's that. And why is it a special song to me? Mainly because the riffing I tried to make in the style of Poppin' Party, but I think it's kind of in the style, actually, of Poppin' Party, but it kind of mixes Afterglow a little bit, but not too much. It's like a little sprinkle. And it's just basically rock riff number 7. Standard rock song in terms of the riffing. But the solo, basically, if I had my way with the way I uploaded it, I would credit the guitar solo to Kazumi Toyama, because I wanted to have this like joke in my. I had this inside joke that the guitar solo is actually recorded by Kazumi, because in the song I literally say after guitar solo, "Good job, Kazumi." It's just like, no, she didn't. She didn't record that. She didn't play that. That was you. But then, yeah. But the solo is probably one of my best solos, because it actually has a really good progression, in my opinion. And that one really tickles me the right way. And then the next two songs, I'm just gonna bundle in one and basically say that these are the worst songs on the album. Don't listen to them. Tribute to Vanessa, it clips all over the place. If you listen to the YouTube version, it doesn't do that, because YouTube doesn't have the same processing. But that one has the worst singing I've ever. That one just shows that I could not sing like that. Like, I wrote a guitar riff that I couldn't even like make a vocal melody over, and just did shit. I just shat over everything. There's nothing special to it. And Tribute to Hating Acres Because Muse is Better, it's basically just me releasing my anger over how disappointed I was watching Love Live Sunshine after watching Love Live. The normal one, because I thought Sunshine was like an extension of the normal anime. And then the last song, well, second last song, because we do actually have a last song. There's another one, but it's Tribute to Darkness, and that one's cool because I had a cool little riff idea. I'm pretty sure I said to skip that, so it's another death metal song, but this time I wrote a riff that I really liked, and the melodies and guitar solo melody stuff, I really liked it. It's up there in my like. I highly feel proud of that one, because when I listen back, I can still feel like I would do this differently with the guitar tone now, but it sounds good to me. If that makes sense. Like, I would do it differently just to have a less noisy rhythm tone. I use my Marshall tone now, and basically that's all would change. But yeah, it's a good song in my opinion, and I like it. And then the last song, Ash Fucked a Cat, tribute to Ash Kello. I was really pissed when I made that song. I just basically believe I made this song because I had my life partially ruined by a person called that on Discord, and then that was basically my diss track. So that's all that's all I can say for that. And I don't know why I went with Fuck the Cat. I guess that was like a thing I came up with, like, for some reason it just rhymed. It just made sense in my head that out of all things I could make up that they do is that they fuck a cat. I don't know why. I don't know why I wanted to call him a cat fucker so bad. I think it actually was something they said, though, that made me think, oh, they liked animals in that way. I don't know. Maybe they're Canadian. If you get that joke, you really are a true one. And then we have the album that I have a love-hate relationship with, because it's probably my best album in terms of songwriting, and that's why I hate it, because I cannot match it. And I say that even though I'm like, the way I prefer songs, I would call my self-titled my best album, just the way my preference goes. But overall, this is the most digestible album, mainly because it has no vocals and it's instrumental. But it's basically started with like me uploading a bunch of videos, and then I was like making a song at the time as the same period, and I uploaded In the Night That I Feel Sorrow, which is technically very similar to A Tribute to Darkness, but it's different. It's differently tuned, and it's slightly different melody, and it actually has a really good melody. I like it. I'm not saying I hate this album. I just have a love-hate relationship, because I know that people who like listen to my music are gonna go for this album and be like, okay, but this one's better. I just know that this one's better than this, but I disagree. I would actually put this one as one of the albums I listen to the least. But that doesn't say I'm not proud of it. I actually I listened to the least to the other two. Actually, the first album, the first full album, and A Tribute to Darkness is also one I listened to the least to. This one's like third, I think. Yeah, third most listened to. Because I love the songs on here. I'm very proud of them. But basically, it's a lot of instrumental, so I'm not really gonna... I'm basically just gonna give a short description. Cool death metal, melodic shit. Fast death metal. It's cool. It sounds cool. The solos are cool. Slow melodic metal. Not really metalcore. Cool. Black metal. Stoner metal. Because I felt like it. Ex-Japan ripoff. And death metal song that goes on for way too long. That's all you need to know about that one. Let me see here. We're not really going to have to talk about these because these are not important. I mean, except for, I believe this is like of course, my self-titled song. I believe this is actually my first proper Suicidal Grind song with the genres. But that's, well, I don't know. And then this one is basically just one of my most, I guess, one of the more successful songs I made because it's funny. People like it because it's funny. And here we go. Here comes my top 3 albums, basically. And they're gonna be in order, which is funny. Yep, actually true. This one's top 3. Bad Apple and Tyrann. This is just a Toho cover album. Nothing really special here. Bad Apple is a Bad Apple cover. Tyrann is a Tyrann cover. It's a cover of what it actually is. But I did actually make a few instrumentals for this. Like Summer was, again, the other song I recorded with acoustic. I guess the only acoustic-ish I made. I put the mic against my amp and recorded it that way. Flowering Night Death, I believe, has 300 BPM. And one of my hardest solos still to the date. Mainly because of the tapping stuff, I believe, at the end. But that's okay. It's still a fun song to play for me, honestly. The Switch to the World had me attempting high notes, which shows why I don't do that, why I say I don't sing power metal. But, I can still listen to The Switch to the World. Because it's still a song that I adore it for some reason. Like, part of me loves it for some reason. Like, I don't know why. I really shouldn't be able to like it because the singing is not that good. But for some reason, I still love the song, the way it came out. But oh well. And then we have Burning Grave. Which is, I don't know. I don't remember it too well. It's just basically another instrumental. But it's heavy. Nothing really special about it. Then we have Life Killer. Made about a special memory. A special member of the family. Because Life Killer is about such things. Like, it explains itself, basically, this song. I shouldn't really need to say anything. Also, this is the first album where I actually started writing lyrics, I believe. Yeah, it is. There's nothing too special about this song other than I really like it. Basically. Komako Semen Grind. It's a pun. It's basically grindcore. About some anime character. another stupid song where it's basically just like, okay, I'm gonna make a grindcore song about this, and I just pick some random shit in my head. And the next is the last instrumental. After Komako, I honestly have struggled pronouncing it even. Which is called "I Love You," which is basically just a song where I made it because I wanted to make a song for my boyfriend, and I just made it one of the instrumentals, so I could get away with it, because it was meant to be only Toho tributes with a couple instrumentals. So I just made the song titled that. And then Satan's Resurrection, I believe, is just another black metal song. But this is a black metal song of whatever song Galaxy Collapse is originally called. The original arrangement of Galaxy Collapse is basically what this is, but in black metal. Because Galaxy Collapse is also a cover, believe it or not. And then The End was quite literally called The End, because it was the end to the album. So, I wanted to make it sound like the last song on the album, specifically. So I made it sort of similar to a song that I know by Dragon Force. I didn't copy it, but I made it similar, if you know what I mean. It wasn't a rip-off, at least. And that was it. I do think it has a cool solo. Most of these do have a cool solo that I really like. This is just when I really stepped up my game, I believe. I actually stepped up my game in the previous instrumental album. And that's when I started making solos. Like, every solo is like, I go back to it and I'm like, yes. Because now I actually am picky with the way I do them. And then I just added Snippy the Snake theme song because it's basically the channel theme song. And this one's not really that important. It's basically just me trying to make Boogie Woogie on piano VST. Second favorite album, The Satanic Party Assassinators. Honestly, as far as album titles go, it's my best album title. And this was meant to be a 100% satanic album, because I felt like it. Every song in here has to do something with the Satan. Even Dead City Night Skies, I had like an idea. I didn't make the lyrics about something satanic. It's actually, I'll get to it. The first song, this is fiction. Everything, a lot of these are kind of fictional, so this is just a fictional song about the satanic party assassinators, which is a really weird thing to say. I even messed it up almost. And then we have Summoning the Succubus. Probably my most successful song over on YouTube. But that's that. It's also probably the one song where I had my best riff writing, and it's also really fun to play on the guitar. I really like playing this back, even though it's really hard. This was very inspired by Morbid Angel, because I recently got into them at that time, which you can probably tell if you listen to the song, that I was really into Morbid Angel at the time. I'm still obviously really into Morbid Angel, lol. But that's the way, basically it. And then Satan's Roadrunner. I just wanted to make a little faster song, like faster in terms of like the feel. So I want to have like a more Megadeth Motorhead style. Cause I guess the like bridge has a little bit of a Dave Mustaine-ish speech part. That's so cool. And I think the solo for all of these are pretty cool as well. Death is actually a song I wrote a bunch of years ago, and the lyrics are all on my wall, but I liked it. So I wanted to put it on here. It's just a short black metal song, which is ironic. A black metal song, the length of a grindcore song. For some reason, I haven't liked the other ones. Don't know why. Doesn't make sense, because I do like these. Especially weird because Killing the Immortal, this next song, is one of those songs where I'm like, I'm proud, I'm really happy with this song. Because this had like a really chuggy riffing and very, very, very like this. Like that, you know what I'm saying? It should make sense the way I mean it. It's very hammery. It's like you're forging, like ding, 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 ding. You know, like it's a very, if you play, it would make more sense if you listen to this while forging a sword. Like it's that kind of song to me. The one who lost his loved ones was actually inspired. This next song was actually inspired by a cattle decapitation song. I believe, I don't remember which one it was. It's something with kingdoms, I believe it's called. But it was basically the slow part I was inspired by, and I wanted to make a similar song but not a ripoff. So it's similar, but it's still my own style. I just built upon that. And then Jag tappar vansinnet. It's another Swedish song. And basically, that's it. It's basically just a Swedish hardcore punk song, kind of. And I did actually write, this one actually isn't that fictional. Because I believe I wrote this one at the time when I was angry about something. I don't even remember what, though. Wasn't anything special. Dead City Night Skies, I believe, because in periodically correct songwriting, this was written about how it felt when COVID hit, basically. Dead City Night Skies is basically just looking back at the times before COVID hit, how fun it was to party and just have a drink with your buddies and go outside and go to concerts and all that. Used to be party grounds for the longest time. I believe this place used to be party grounds for the longest fucking time. I believe I say something like that. And party grounds is basically another word for just concerts. So I basically wrote about that, just basically saying like it feels shitty that like COVID is a thing right now, and I basically just wanted back to concerts. And I mean, it's pretty relatable. The Dragon, black metal. That's all I can say about this song. It's just black metal, and it's written about a dragon that actually kills the bad guys and it becomes like, it's actually a good guy dragon. So this dragon is like one that kills the bad guys and becomes like a king of the land or some shit like that. I'm not too passionate about this one, as you can tell, because I actually made this, like, originally, the intro and the shit was, like, you know, it was actually just, like, I wanted to make stupidly loud drums, and I turned everything to max, and kind of did the same for The Force. The Force is basically my first little skinny dip into Swedish death metal. And The Force, obviously, I had to call it because I made a song called The Dragon, and then after I make a song called The Force. So you get The Dragon and then The Force. Get it? Dragon Force? That's a little Easter egg there for you. Because I love Dragon Force. That's basically the only reason it was called The Force. There's nothing forceful about it, or there's no force behind the song. It's just a death metal song, a Swedish death metal song, and it's pretty cool. I like it. I love it. Cold Blooded Death is a very inspired song. Let's just say that. The last song on this album, except for the bonus song, of course. The last proper song on this album, Cold Blooded Death, is very inspired by, because at the time I had recently started listening a lot to Neobliviscaris, and I will talk about them more this year on this channel, specifically in April, I believe. depending on some factors, of course, because I believe at the same time as their album ships out, I'm gonna be at a concert. So I believe around that same time at least. Oh, actually, I believe the concert is early April and the album ships more like in the middle. But yeah, this was inspired because I recently listened a lot to Neobliviscaris, so it's very, but it's not really the progressive part. It's basically just the atmospheric, like the atmospheric black and death metal parts of Neobliviscaris that I was really inspired by. So it's very death metal but atmospheric, so it has like a black metal element, and it's very similar to Neobliviscaris. So that's basically it. I was really inspired. And then Taking a Shit Part 2 bonus song. I made it. Real story. Because I shit myself before I went to work one day. And that's just the story. There's nothing more to it. But then we get to my last... Well, the last album up on Spotify, because there's no other up on Spotify. SuicidalGrind. Self-titled. My favorite album of my own music. And as much as you believe it's just that because blah 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 blah, it's the most recent. No, it's mainly because I've actually improved over the years, and I've actually noticed that I like my finished product the most on this album, start to finish, if that makes sense. First song, I had like the idea for the first song where I was like gonna go back to the Tribute to Darkness era thing, but where I basically just, made fun songs for myself because I want to go back to not giving a damn, but then I realized that I can go back to not giving a damn and still make songs that I enjoy making. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to be completely serious all the time, but it ended up becoming a serious album anyways, because I believe in the majority of things, there's more serious than non-serious. So the first song, not serious. It's basically just... the only reason it's called Shota Ejaculation is because it's basically just what I call my boyfriend because he's small, but he's not a Shota. There's no age correlation to that. It's just me making fun of my boyfriend technically, but I made a song that's very sexual about it. It's nothing more to it. It's just me wanting to be funny again to myself, because when I listen back to it, it's just like, for some reason, sex equals funny in that song, and yeah, it's kind of cheap to go with sex equals funny, but I didn't really think that much. I was just doing what the fuck I wanted to do. But then I make one of my best songs in my entire catalog, Your Eyes Lit Up Like Fire in the Night. Like, this song is like, this fits more on my instrumental album than it does on this self-titled. Because this is one of my best songs ever written, and it's one of my instrumentals. It has a really great progression, and this one I just love it. I can't describe it in any other way. Then I just love this song of mine. I'm really happy with the way this one came out. That's basically all I can say, I guess, because there's not more stories behind it. There's not really a story behind it, because this is just, I wanted to call it something cute, because I felt like the song had like a cute vibe to it, so I had some cute title. I just said Your Eyes Lit Up Like Fire in the Night, and then that was that. So there wasn't really any rhyme or reason to why I did what I did to it. It's just, I made a song that I really like, and I'm really happy with, and I'm really proud of, and I just decided I'm gonna put a little cute song title for it. So we're gonna go on to Call Smoke Deathmish. Death Wish. Cold Smoke Death Wish. This is where I started songwriting on the album. I mean, like, in terms of death metal. This is where the death metal songwriting came in. And this is one of those songs that make this my favorite album because it really speaks to me. Let's just say that. Cold Smoke Death Wish is basically just, I guess, the closest to a political song you're gonna get from me. Because I actually share my views on global warming that I actually don't really think it's... Well, I'm not really gonna talk about that. I didn't really make it with the intention of telling anyone what it means, but it's basically just like the feeling of disagreeing that it's a bad thing that the world is ending and everything. You know. But it's not meant to be taken in that way. It's meant to be more fictional rather than just literal. But I really like the riffing and shit. I believe the solo. I don't remember it because now I'm hearing another song in my head. Oh, now I remember it. Here. Yeah. And then I got a little lazy, honestly, with the lyrics in the middle or something of the song. So I started singing about, I don't know, succubus stuff. But it was still on par with what I was singing about. It was more just like meant to be satanic stuff and a lot of sinning, stuff like that. So, you know, the good stuff, sinning, committing sins against Christianity and stuff like that. Stuff that we all do because religion is bullshit. I can say that with a proud face because I don't stand for religion at all. I do not support any religion, and I take pride in saying that. Because there's no good religion out there. There's just isn't one. And I'm more for the, like, Satanism where it's like you're controlling your own fate, basically. It's not like you believe in a devil horned guy where it's like he's jumping around and burning people and poking them with a little fucking thing. And no, that's just a bunch of bullshit that the Christians made up. I don't think of a Satan or anything like that. The only reason I mention Satan in my lyrics is because it's more conventional. It makes more sense. It's because I don't really like, you know, getting into that and stuff. But yeah. I guess the next one was me kind of going back to, though, the original motto of the way. Because I made this song, which was really serious. And then this one, which was really serious in terms of songwriting. But I kind of got lazy with the lyrics. But I still remained on par with what I wanted to do. I didn't, like, get lazy in the terms of changing the song. I would have still been not entirely serious on this. My monster can is making funny noises. But then I went back to not being serious again with my Lollies Love Old Muscle chorus. It has my fastest vocals ever, I believe. In one part, at least. Because I didn't do it on purpose. But I wrote too many lyrics, but I wrote them in a way that I wanted to keep them, if that makes sense. So it just resulted in me having to growl really fast. And it took me a couple takes to get the last, like, lines before the breakdown hits. The one, doom, 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 ding, 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 ding. And with the double keys, like that. And then, and just, you know, basically slam breakdown. And then it goes into the guitar solo. Just another song where I'm just being back into the old days where I didn't really care too much for the lyrical topic and just wanted to make something that was funny to me. So I just threw in the lollies topic there because it's always easy to joke around about. It's also so easy to piss people off with it, so it's always fun to do with that as well. I think that's a good part of it as well. So I wasn't really necessarily having too much in mind with that one. I think the riffing, I still put a lot of effort into the writing in terms of riffing, because this is that album. And this was the same for the first song. The riffing on that one is actually, like, I sat down and had to come up with a riff that really sounded good to me. And then That's the Way I Want to Live, obligatory blues song. That's the way I want to live, which basically just sums up the way I want to live. I just want to drink whiskey and drive muscle cars. And that was basically it. It's basically just me describing my life goals. Drink whiskey and have a muscle car in my garage. So, basically, here in my garage, I have knowledge, but not any kind of knowledge. You heard of a V8? This one's not a small block. This is a big block V8. Oh, man. So, yeah, this was actually, like, interesting, because this is, like, hard to tell if it was serious or not. This is a serious song. This is a 100% serious blues song, and I tried to do some clean vocals. I will say, this is one of the ones that I'm more happy about in terms of clean vocals, because they actually came out exactly how I expected them to come out. Not great, not that good, but still good enough for my standards. I listen to it and enjoy it. That's basically it. And I love it, because at the end, I kind of give myself the vibe of one of those, like, movie rock and roll singers, if you know what I mean. If you watch, like, a rock, like a hair rock, like, basically Mötley Crüe parody movie, the singers tend to sound like how I sounded in the end of the song. Very, like, melodic, like typical power behind the voice. Like, there's, like, that one movie, I don't remember what it's called, though, so... Rock of Ages, like that movie. It's basically, like, the male singer in Rock of Ages. The guy who, like, wants to get with the girl and shit, you know. It basically is that kind of singing. So, typical TV guy who sings hard rock and metal singing. 80s metal, like the Van Halen style and shit. And I like it. And then I made Lethal Misinformation. I believe out of everything I did on this song, I think I'm the most happy with the way that I went about the guitar tone. Because the guitar tone on that song is like, I fully committed to Swedish death metal here. And I'm just really happy with that guitar tone. I think. Is it? It's my tone where I was trying to recreate the massive killing capacity dismember guitar tone, I believe. So it's a little more mellow, and it's not super Swedish death metal guitar tone, but it's still there. And obviously, the main inspiration for this song, you can probably hear it in the song. But yeah, Cannibal Corpse. I love Cannibal Corpse. So that was the main inspiration between everything, including the lyrics. I really like the lyrics because they're very Cannibal Corpse, and I basically just felt like making a Cannibal Corpse song anyways. So it was really personal as well, because I've listened to Cannibal Corpse for longer than I've listened to death metal overall. So, like, I listened to Cannibal Corpse before I even liked death metal, if that makes sense. If you know what I mean? Because if you only listen to Cannibal Corpse, you can't really say you like death metal. Because I would say if you like a genre, you listen to more than one band in that genre. You know what I'm saying? But Cannibal Corpse, definitely starter pack death metal, but they're really cool. Let's just be fair here. And then, one of my proudest pieces of work. I take a bigger pride in this one, and I take a bigger pride in this song than I take in my own birth. Why did I become British? Well, I don't know. You ask yourself why I became British, because I'm not going to give you the answer, because I have no clue. I see through your scars like no one else. I say this for a lot of my songs, but if you have a gun against my head, this is in my top 3 favorite songs that I've ever made. Because I See Through Your Scars Like No One Else is a song I actually wrote about the visual novel that I have here, Kata wa Shoujo. I wrote it about Hanako because it's a long story. I guess I should bring it up though. Hanako just felt like such a such a strong adaptation of myself. It was like fine. It was like, damn, she's literally like that. She's just like me, but like it was actually like just like me, because a lot of it is very things I have done in life, basically, including the poor decision making that Hanako did, specifically the type she did, and basically losing your thoughts and then doing stuff that hurts yourself to keep someone from leaving you, even though they still like you, and you didn't need to do that, but you did it anyways because you felt like, even though it hurts you, it's probably the best if you do it, because then they won't leave you. Shit like that, but we don't need to go into that, because that kind of depressing, and that not fun. We ain't about depressing. We ain't gonna be depressing. We ain't here to be depressing. We here to have fun and drink beer. Except I will drink whiskey. So yeah, basically just a sad song, actually. But it's meant to be a motivational song. You can apply to basically anything, where it's like your viewpoint of seeing someone that's like talking down on themselves, and you're seeing past that, and it's basically just seeing past someone's scars, which is like, in this, it's actually meant to be very theoretical scars, but in the visual novel, Hanako does have scars, actual scars on their face, which she believes that the guy, which is you're not gonna like her because of her scars. But then it's like, I see through your scars like no one else. You know what I'm saying? You probably get it. So then we get onto my, believe it or not, second favorite song of my own. So this is top 3. Here's top 2. Diary of Depression. 16 minutes of me crying my heart out, basically. This is me pouring out, spilling the beans, basically. I put everything horrible that's happened to me in this song, basically. I just put everything out there, and it's basically just a lyrical interpretation of different things in life that affected me the most over the years, which is why that's why it's called Diary of Depression, because it's a diary of my depression. So that's why in the lyrics, if you go on the description of that song on YouTube, it says part 1, part 2, and then part 3, and then part 4, I believe. Part 4 is just speech, because that's like the after all of this, I've overcome it, and a stronger person, shit like that, And this is the most variety based song, because every part has a different BPM and style, and that was what I wanted to do. I basically wanted to make a different style for every part and change it up and have a BPM change and style change and genre changes, which is why I called this my second ever Suicidal Grind song in terms of genre, because it does mix some black metal, some death grind aspects, I guess, if you want to really be allowing here. Then yeah, it has some melodic death metal in it as well, and some Nile inspired parts. Of course, the guitar soloing in the beginning and the outro. But yeah, it's just a long ass song. And then we have Greta. This is basically just a song about my cat. It's pretty self-explanatory if you just listen to it, because I mentioned. And the sample in this is actually me recording my cat when I came home and she was meowing at me. So I just made a song about my cat, basically, because I love my cat. My cat is probably the second favorite thing in the world after my boyfriend. So yeah, I love my cat. So I made a song about her because she's the most adorable kitty ever. She's just like the best animal I've ever met. And then I made a song about hot dog because at the time when I made that, I was gonna eat hot dogs, and I was really obsessed with hot dogs at the time. So I just wanted to make a grindcore song about hot dogs, and just basically that I like hot dogs. It's basically the entire concept of that song. It's silly. So it's definitely one of the songs that are not so serious. But then we go back to a real story. This is, I believe, one of the other songs on this album that has a real story. I guess the second half is sort of real story based. Like 7, this one. Actually, pretty much from here to here is real story. True story. Based on true stories. But Lethal Misinformation is still trying to be more fictional. It's not supposed to be taken too well into like serious areas. Because I didn't want to fully commit to like the serious bit of it, but I still want to elaborate and just like, you can kind of piece it together, I guess, if you listen to it. And then we have the probably worst experience I've had personally. I don't know if it's included in my ADHD or my autism. It could be something else that I've yet to find out about, because I don't want to find out I have more problems on top of these two. I think that's enough to be diagnosed with. I don't want to try and get myself more, because I'm about to look like one of those people on Discord that have like every gender role, but in terms of like diagnosis, if I go to the doctor for another thing. So The Darkness Is Staring at Me is basically just describing the time after I saw Dismember live in Stockholm. I was gonna go home to my hotel, but I went the wrong way because the GPS didn't give me the proper way back to the hotel. And it ended up being 3 a.m. and I got lost in the forest. And this forest had no lighting at all, no lights. It was completely pitch black forest. I had to navigate through a pitch black forest that I got lost in, only using a fucking GPS that every other second wanted to rearrange the route. So yeah, I was fucked because my brain does things to me when I'm alone in the dark. But only in forests, not in like the city or in my room or anywhere else. Not even a dark alley. I'm fine with dark alleys, but in a forest, it just fucks with my head for some reason, and I start seeing and hearing shit that are just not there. That's just not there. So that's just basically describing that feeling, which is why the story is called. The title is called "The Darkness Is Staring at Me," because that's what it feels like to experience that. And then disremembered mind. I actually found out that this was a real word while I wrote this song, and it fits because this song is actually written by a friend of mine back in 2019 who had a strong mental breakdown. I don't know how to describe it, if it's really mental breakdown that's like the proper word for it. But they had like a breakdown where it basically for them the post effect of that was forgetting who they were, and they didn't remember their name. It was like a different person. And I basically just wrote the song as the POV of experiencing that firsthand. Like, because they described it to me and everything, how it was. So I obviously was able to remember that because it was such a big part of my life. Because you don't forget something like that when it happens to your friend, and it's just shitty. And it's a very deep topic that's honestly like a little bit fascinating that something like that can in fact happen and will happen if you have a lot of problems in your life. Like mental problems, not like outside stuff, you know? You know what I'm saying? Not like you're weird. So yeah, that was deep. A song I wrote basically just to reflect on that, and it was one of those things where I had to write a song about it to just like get it off my chest a little bit, almost. So it was a good song for me to write. I'm really proud of this because this is actually my number one favorite song that I've ever written. And mainly because the riffing is really sweet. I love the riff on this. It's my favorite riff I've ever done, even though it's really simple. And the solo is my best solo ever. It's just the best I've done because it has the full-on Swedish death metal vibe to it, and it's just punchy. Also, this song, The Darkness is Staring at Me, my boyfriend plays a guest solo on it. Really happy about that. But yeah, we gotta move past that and then go to this. I forgot what it's actually called, but it's like the words, the script of the wall or some shit like that. It's a very fictional song. I decided to write a song in Japanese, basically. I can find out what it's called, but it was entirely written in Japanese with a little help from some sources, and not Google Translate, for the record. I didn't use Google Translate. But yeah, basically just a song in Japanese, and it's Swedish death metal. So, there's nothing really to it. I just wanted to do it. And then, the last song I'm going to talk about today, Black Ice. And I'd say this is the top 5, and top 4 is The Angel of Death. Black Ice is the best interpretation of the forest fire, if that makes sense. Because I took a similar riff idea where I have a big stretch. This is my second biggest stretch on guitar. And it's just like a really similar idea, but the riffing actually ends up becoming unique because of the way I use it. I have a Swedish death metal tone on the black metal guitar, and it's basically a song where I'm like, I wrote it because at the first day of snow, I went outside, and for some reason, it was like snowing a lot, and I was going to my workplace. But for some reason, the snow falling down, and it was actually like negative degrees outside. It made me feel warm when I was walking to work. So I actually just wrote this about that. Basically, like that. For some reason, the snow it just made me feel happy and warm, and comfortable. And it's just called Black Ice because it sounds cooler than calling it snow or I love snow. You know. And Black Ice is pretty cool because that's like the kind of ice where it's like you cannot drive your car. And it's a long song, really long, 13 minutes. I didn't think that was gonna happen. I thought it was gonna be kind of like 9 minutes. But then the solo came in. And then I got the part where it's like the little thing where it's like atmospheric and goes like a triad thing. I like that riff. It does sound a little weird the first times I listened to it, but then it actually grew on me. So I kept it, and then I made it slightly different, so it actually sounds like a typical atmospheric part, but then it goes down chromatically, so it still sounds a little weird when it cycles through the notes. So it's still a little bit of a weird concept in style, but it's still, you know, I tried to keep it to where I would listen to it at any given point if I felt like it. And that's it for this video. My brain is tired, and I made this video despite the odds, because even though I knew it was going to be long as hell, I decided to make it anyways. And I'm really tired now. You can see I just yawned, and that was a genuine yawn. I'm not going to talk about the bonus tracks because they're not really important. But yeah, I'm just really tired, honestly. I'm about to fall asleep, actually, so I should probably end the recording, because I've been drumming hard today, and now I decided to do this where I have to think and shit. So yeah, and I've been in welding school, and I did a test today. It's hard, but I passed with like 90+% accuracy. Yeah. But yeah, I've been SuicidalGrind. You've been watching me basically explain the lore behind some of my songs. And yeah, I'm gonna go take it easy now before it's 9 p.m. And then I'm gonna go to sleep. You know the motto: stay cute.